Now it's time for something more wild and challenging than just a run-of-the-mill takeoff. Not all runways are long, flat, and clear of debris. Let's try taking to the sky from a more rugged surface. With the brakes applied, go ahead and increase power to full throttle. It's a little more difficult to keep straight during the takeoff roll on a loose surface such as gravel, as you lose some steering control. Go ahead and set full throttle. Excellent. The engine instruments are all in the green. Now release the brakes and we'll get going. Rotate at 45 knots. Now smoothly raise the nose to 15 degrees. Now that we're safely off the ground, go ahead and retract the landing gear. Maintain a 15 degrees nose-up attitude to hold a climbing airspeed of 60 knots. Now retract the flaps to improve our climb rate. Great. Now keep on climbing straight ahead. Great. That's the short field takeoff in a nutshell. Now that you've taken off from a gravel runway, let's try landing on one. For this short field landing, the terrain dictates that we need to approach at an angle. Start by deploying the landing gear and get ready for our approach. Short runways require an early touchdown and full flaps to minimize our rollout so we don't run out of runway. Next, fully extend the flaps. Great. Aim for an approach speed of 55 knots. Aim close to the beginning of the runway so we have the longest roll possible, but be careful not to undershoot it. Cut the power just before touching down for a nice, smooth landing. Once we touch down, apply the brakes for a smooth landing that brings us to a stop as quickly as possible. You nailed the landing. The procedure is more challenging than at a larger airport, but being able to land on short and unimproved runways like this one opens up more possibilities for your adventures. Mountain flying has its own set of hazards and requires its own set of specialized skills. Mountainous terrain, especially at high altitude, often creates dangerous turbulence, even when conditions appear dead calm. Fly on the right-hand side of the valley ahead, maintaining 2,000 feet altitude and 100 knots airspeed. Air flows over mountains like water does over rocks, conforming to the topography both on the upside and the downside. Air forced up the side of a mountain by wind creates updrafts, often unpredictable ones. Let's ride this wave of rising air and soar along these ridges like eagles. With the wind out of our left-hand side, fly just above the right side edge of the valley to ride the updraft. Now that we're flying alongside the valley wall, you'll start to feel the aircraft want to gain altitude. Maintaining altitude needs a slightly lower pitch attitude than usual. We're now ridge soaring like an eagle. Turbulence often comes with updrafts, so prepare for the going to get a little rough. Try to stay in the rising air to get a good feel for it. As we reach the gap in the mountain wall on our right side, the updraft will level off and then ramp up again when we reach the other side of the gap. Gotten the hang of riding updrafts. Next, we'll train in air with downdrafts, which is far more dangerous.